Hello guys, I'd like to welcome you to this webinar via NTube Center. It's today's topic, how HDSLR cameras change the way of filmmaking. And we've seen a lot of progress and a lot of changes in the last couple of years concerning this little small camera. Thank you for joining today. And what I'd like to do is I'll go with you through the history, how did it start, what's a DSLR camera in the first place, and how we use it today in professional filmmaking and how it really affects the way of we do film. If we look at these little cameras, called a HDSLR camera, it's a digital single lens reflex camera, and it has the capability to record HD video. In first place, it was meant to be a photo camera, which it was used for many years. And what happened is, I'm having a Canon camera here. It's a Canon 6D, by the way, very similar to the Canon 5D, the popular Canon 5D that changed the way of filmmaking in first place. So what actually happened is, back in 2008, Canon department for photography, they invented and worked on a new camera, which was later released as the 5D Mark II camera. And what happened is that this photography department in Canon was organized completely independent from Canon's filmmaking department. Canon filmmaking department, known for Canon C300 cameras, Canon C500 cameras came on later, Canon C100, etc., are really film cameras. So like have a super 35mm sensor, are used the way of filmmaking. We use it with XLR audio feeds. You have ND filters built in, etc., etc. This from the photo department, and they were working on the 5D, they did something really cool and special because they had so many news reporters all over the world in 2006, 2007. Internet came up. We had a lot of YouTube channels already going on at that time. And what happened is all these news reporters, the photographers, they say, guys, can you develop something where I can just record like 20 seconds of footage, maybe 30 seconds, like a video function for my camera. And if this is nice, if this is working, then I can send it home to my editors and they see the situation. They get a better idea and understanding of what's going on. And Canon did this, and the photography department did this independently, as mentioned, from the videography department. So what happened is, with this little extra feature, they put in the 5D Mark II photo camera, digital single lens reflex camera, and the capability now to record full HD video in a quality with an internal codec. It's H.264, it's fine, but with the quality, it's full HD. And this revolution not only in the news world, but all the filmmakers. And here's why. Because now the filmmakers realized, oh gosh, I can afford a Hollywood-alike studio camera, which at that time was priced at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and more. I can afford that camera now for as little as $1,000, $2,000. And that was an amazing revolution, actually. So when we look today, and this was 7 years ago, if we look today, what happened in the last couple of years, then we see there's a lot of things going on. So what's the big pros and cons, or why are DSLR cameras so interesting for us? And the way they work is you have different lenses to use. So for example, this is detachable lenses. I have different lenses. If you buy a camcorder, like a Sony camcorder back in 2008, back in 2009, they mostly have on-top lenses integrated to the camera. You can zoom a little bit, but then it has its limitations. So with this little photo cameras now, you were able to change the lenses. You have a prime lens here, 50mm lens, for example. You just change it and take whatever other lens you want, like a 24-105 zoom lens, and you just easily mount it there, like photographers do. And you change this photography operational device into a full HD capable video camera. And this is really the cool stuff. Of course, there's, as mentioned, pros and cons, and I'll go into little details of that whole thing. What I'd like to do now first is I'll show you a little video that was shot 4 years ago on Souk Waqif here in Doha, and it was literally shot with that setup. So just a camera body, one single prime lens, no extra gear, no shoulder support, no matte box, no rig, no lights, no extra audio, nothing. It was just shot like that. And the big advantage is if you walk around public area, you take crowd shots, etc. People don't even realize that you are a cameraman. They think, oh, this is a guy, tourist, take some photos. And in real life, you can take videos and you'll get amazing results. And I'd like to play a first part of this little video now. So lean back, turn your volume on and enjoy the sound. And we'll start with it here. Okay, I'm gonna stop that video here now, so you have a first impression of what can be achieved with these little cameras. And this is really what the filmmakers all over the world, starting from 2008, peaked on. And since then, from 2008 till now, HDSLR filmmaking, the first that came out commercially was the 5D Mark II, was a big revolution. Then Canon followed with the Canon 7D, smaller sensor camera, but still great results. This video, by the way, was shot on a Canon 7D with a 30mm Sigma lens, 1.4. Somebody's interested in technical things. And you can also read all the details on my channels. It's all there. So this revolution came up to the indie filmmakers. They were going out with their documentary cameras, and now everybody of them, most of them are photographers anyway. And this is really the interesting and good part. There's so many photographers out there. Even some of our participants today, I guess, they do have photo cameras, and now they can realize when they know how to use the cameras, when they know how to change the settings, they realize what amazing results they can achieve with their photo camera, and they do already own that camera. So you don't have to invest in a video camera. You don't have to buy a fancy, expensive camera. Basically, if you own a photography camera, an HDSLR with video capability, you are able to achieve results like that. And so this was really an amazing time, and it still is. Every month, every week, there's news coming out of enhancements, and all the manufacturers have given us really great opportunities. And what happened at the end of the day, that you can, I really would say, with a $3,000 to $4,000 photo camera investment, including the lenses, of course, still a lot of money. But you can achieve, if you set everything right in first place, you can achieve 90% out of what professional Hollywood people could achieve with a big Hollywood camera. So what's the difference? Why is a DSLR nowadays so really cool and good, and why doesn't everybody now says, yeah, well, it's light, it's easy, I can carry it, I just, take it with me, everything's cool. So why would anybody still use these big fancy cameras? You need like a focus puller, you need a cameraman, a camera assistant, you need 2 people to carry the whole camera. When you have a single lens change, there's big lenses, etc. So why, of course, is not everybody using the small camera? And there's, of course, pros and cons of DSLR cameras, and we'll come to that in a minute. I have prepared a small slide for you. I'll switch to that slide now. Here it is. So we have pros and cons of HDSLR cameras. So as mentioned, smaller, they're very mobile, light in weight, so I can carry them practically anywhere. It's really fine, it's all good. You have the capability with these cameras, I also showed you that before, to change the lenses. So I have a 50mm lens here now, which, by the way, 50mm reflects what we call my eyesight. So whatever you see with your own eyes, the distance of any object, that shall be almost represented by a 50mm lens on a full frame camera, of course. Depending on the sensor size, the 50mm calculates how the focal length, how it really shines when you look for it. So I can change easily the lenses. I just break it off. I'll take another lens, mount it, and voila! I have a 24-105 zoom lens now. I can zoom really wide in. I can do very nice portrait shots with that, portrait videos, etc. Or I'll just change it again and go back to my 50mm lens. There's also plenty of different lenses available. You have wider lenses, 16mm, for example. So all lenses that are considered as wider lenses are when I see more than my eyes would see. So I have a wider view of the whole thing. Everything more than 50mm, like 85, 100 and more, is called a zoom lens or long lens, actually, because the lens normally gets longer, the longer the focal length is. So this is considered a zoom or long lens. Now we're coming to the third, and this is by honest means the most important part, the shallow depth of field for the film look. So what's shallow depth of field? To show it very quickly and very easy, we'll go to this slide here. For example, this is a movie scene, and this is what we know as a Hollywood movie scene. You have an actress looking, standing towards the camera, and you have a background. And as you can see, we have the background blurred out. Hope it's not the quality that it's showing here, but it's really literally blurred out. So you have some objects in the background, but you don't want to show the focus on them. You want to keep the focus on the actress. So the actress in the foreground, she's in focus, she's clear, we can see her details, and the background is totally blurred out. And this is what we call shallow depth of field. And normally, the more expensive the lenses, the shallower the depth of field. That means the more blurred out is the background. And this is what we want to achieve when we do a film. When we go for Hollywood movies, this is always what we see. When you look at an iPhone photo, for example, nothing against, or general phones, Android, iPhone, everything, nothing against the mobile phones, but if you take a picture with your mobile phone, what you will realize is everything's in focus. Even the guys in the background, they're super sharp and everybody's happy. Hey, wow, I can see grandma there in the back and she's still on the table. But in film terms, we want to play around with that. It's an artistic, creative work. So what we want to achieve is to get a really shallow depth of field. And this is achieved with DSLR cameras. They have a big, huge sensor. Sensor size is here very important. And it gives you the capability of having a really shallow depth of field. So this is a really nice thing. Another interesting thing is the bokeh. What we call as bokeh are the reflections of the light you can see in the background images. For example, this is a still image, a little girl, and in the background you have, it looks like a lot of leaves and a lot of forest and stuff like that. And the shape, I think I can draw here, right? So the shape these little objects do here, pick a color we can all see. This object here, this object, this object. This is all what we call bokeh. And the bokeh consists of the aperture of your lens and gives this little nice light flares. And this is a wonderful, beautiful effect people like to see, people love. So this is all the big pros and cons of HDSLR cameras, pros in this case. Of course, we have different picture profiles. What is a picture profile? When you record a movie scene, you try to record in a very flat profile. Long story short, out of the camera, this picture just doesn't look very interesting because it's very flat. But in post-production, editing, you have the capability to color that picture, to use certain filters. I can easily explain it with Instagram filters. Take a neutral picture, it might look good, but you might want to go for more artsy stuff. You put an Instagram filter on. You can choose between vintage filters, 70s filter, etc., etc. And you can make this picture appear in different forms and in different styles. And this is what DSLR cameras enable you. There's special settings. You can record a very flat profile picture. And this picture, later on, you can put picture profiles on top. If you look at the video from Wacky, for example, and there's a scene in the beginning with 3 guys sitting next to each other, which is really, I like the scene. It's a very, very strong scene. And you can see you can see the look and feel of this scene. This is a DSLR camera, Canon 7D. That camera at that time cost about $1,500, and you can achieve picture quality and picture colors like that with a single Canon 7D, for example. We might have a lot of Nikon guys in there, or Sony guys, etc. I have prepared a little poll for us. I'll finish the pros first, and we'll do the poll, and then we go to the cons of the camera, okay? So going back to the pros, the last part here, and I mentioned it a couple of times, I guess, and this is really an important thing. It's affordable. It's even for students, it's affordable to own a DSLR camera with video function, HDSLR camera in this case, and they can turn it easily into a video camera with just a little of the right settings, shutter speed, etc., and everything is cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm starting a little poll now. I hope I can find that. Yep, it's here. So we have prepared for all our participants. I assume most guys of you own a camera, but we're just interested of what you own. So the first question is actually, do you own a DSLR camera, or what the DSLR camera are you using? And I'll open it now, and I would really love you to, it's a single choice answer, or click the cameras you use in the last year you own, and just that we have an overview of what's going on. And I can see you guys already clicking very fine here, and we'll come back to the results in a couple of minutes when everybody gave their votes for that, so that we know how the camera guys out there are. So I got a chat here from that I shall send the link for the video you played a while ago. Okay, sure, guys. I can send you that link. It's on YouTube. It's called The Beauty of Souk Waqif, and I'll put that into the chat window while you have time to put the poll. Also, guys, if from your side you have any questions during this 1-hour webinar, please feel free to put it in the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer instantly and see how we can deal with that. I'm copying you now the link of the video as per request. Here is the link. So this Beauty of Souk Waqif video, that's the YouTube link, and it's also on my Vimeo channel, by the way. All the videos are on my Vimeo channel. YouTube, a social media platform for videos. Vimeo, social media platform for videos. YouTube is more the everybody's public stuff, and it's like a community of more makers. So you'll find more art stuff and more individual stuff. Vimeo has a policy: all videos you upload, you have to be taken part in the creation. So it has to be your own, video, or you have to be a part of the whole group of producers, etc. Good. So let's see how our survey is going. Okay, we have still people put the surveys in. I think some answers are changing now. Okay. Anyway, we'll come back to that later. Let's get back to the pros and cons we had, and of course, when there's pros, there's cons on one side. And coming back to the answer, why is not everybody shooting on DSLR cameras now? Thing is, with DSLR cameras, they are photo cameras with video function. They are not meant to be integrated in the video filmmaking world workflow, which starts at sound recording, which starts at external sound recording, internal sound recording, microphones, audio, leveling, etc. Which starts with live screen previews. We don't have a built-in really nice monitor. We do have HDMI out, but we want to mount XL monitors on it. It's all possible, but there's also, you need to build on top. So they don't offer it in general. You cannot put a time code out there in some cameras. You don't have a PNC live feed cable. You don't have, as mentioned, XLR input cable. So there's some cons. This regarding to the professional filmmaking world. Coming up to the cons you will immediately face when you start doing an own film or something on your DSLR camera. We do have a limited recording time. And why is that? That's a really good and tricky question. When the Canon 5D Mark II came out the first time, the recording length was limited to 12 minutes. So that means that after 12 minutes, the recording just stopped. One of the reasons was because the file format on the CF cards at that time are 4 GB data blocks. And after 12 minutes of HD recording, those 4 GB of data blocks were reached, and so it cut automatically. You could just immediately press start again, but if you're recording your sons or daughters or friends' ceremony, etc., school gatherings, and it just stops in the wrong moment, no good. But you can deal with that. And in professional filmmaking, there's hardly any moment where you really record more than 12 minutes. Nowadays, these cameras, for example, the Canon 60 or the Sony A7S, which is there in the background, lovely camera, they have recording limits up to 30 minutes, which gives you more ground to work on with, and it's really a cool deal. Next thing, and it's in Doha especially, is overheating of the sensor. If you're shooting out there nowadays, not only that it's crazy to shoot out there in summer, and I always do it, I do it again, I say, no, I should not do it next year, but I'm still out there. It's not only harmful for yourself, and you need to get hydrated, drink some water, also the cameras. It's really tricky for the cameras to handle the heat. These cameras have an operational temperature up to 38, 40 degrees, sometimes a little more. But if it gets really hot there and the camera stays in the sun, it's just overheating and it's not working anymore. It's not damaging. You can just stop it, cool it down, wait a couple of minutes, and then start it again. It will most probably work and everything will be fine. But this is a real issue. And professional film cameras, they are made for a much higher temperature. We do have more and rolling shutter issues. This is, I want to show it to you very briefly. What is this? I have a slide here, and it says rolling shutter. Many of you might or might not heard of that before, etc. But rolling shutter is when you film, for example, a skyline, Doha skyline, Corniche, etc. And you do a fast move with the camera, like a pan. Okay, so you zoom, you pan from the left side, fast to the right side. What happens is, due to the interlacing and how the sensor is built up, all the buildings, they will collapse a little bit. Some might think it's a nice effect, but some just don't like it, you know. So if you take a quick pan, all the buildings will go like that and then straighten up again. You can test that, you can check that out. So you see it here in the pictures. It's the left picture where you see how the buildings go collapsing a little bit. No big deal, but just professional filmmakers don't usually like that, so that's one issue. Second issue, and this is quite a big issue with DSLR cameras, it's the moire. When you look at the building, and I'm showing you that here, and you see the patterns here. You see these patterns here? Okay, all these patterns, it's all over the building, all these patterns. This is called the moire effect. And this is also caused by the sensor and how a DSLR is technically built. And on a building, the thing is the stripes and the moire effect, it's not stable, it's moving. You have this building, and if you pan with your camera, if you tilt it up and down a little bit, what happens is that these patterns are moving, and it's just disturbing. It doesn't look nice. Example, if you wear a t-shirt, and you have an interview partner who has many, many stripes on his t-shirt, you do an interview with him, tell him to change the t-shirt. It's much better, because it will be moire all over his t-shirt, and it distracts from the interview. No good. So brief the interview partners, tell them to wear a plain shirt, white shirt, black shirt, shirt of any color preferred, but no stripes, no fancy patterns, just keep it plain and everything's good. So we have a question coming in here from Muhammad. What do you think about the future of GoPro camera in the movie industry? That's actually a good question. I work with GoPro cameras a lot, and we've used them a lot here. I think it's a very good usage for like crash cameras. If you want to have a point of view, like I'm sitting in a car, I'm doing something, it's my own point of view, I'm running, it's a small cameras, you can easily mount them. And they are capable now, GoPro 4 for example, of recording in 4K, which is 4 times the resolution of full HD, which is really amazing. It's not part of this webinar, but you know there's quadcopters out there, little aerial photography, videography, and these work brilliant with this little GoPro cameras. So I know that in the movie industry, GoPro cameras are part of the professional movie industry. We use them. They are used for certain type of shots. They won't be used for like any shots. For example, with a GoPro camera, you may not achieve a shallow depth of field. Everything is super sharp with the GoPro camera, which is good because you have a wide view normally, wide angle, and you want to see everything what's happening in your frame. But for shallow depth of field effects, they're no use. But for everything else, I think it's a really good thing. Yes, of course. You also can do 360 videos with the GoPro cameras. You need to mount. There's a certain rigs you can mount it, you can have it. It's a nice fancy stuff, and there's certain areas they will find use of, and I think they will be a permanent part, but not for the fancy artsy stuff that we want to achieve. Okay, so I have prepared another small video for you guys. It's a video also shot in 2011 here in Doha, in Qatar, certain places starting from the Pro. And it was for a musician from the Qatar Philharmonics, and she's a violin player, and she asked me to produce a music video for her to show her playing the violin. And I came up with an idea of a short film story. So we have a little girl, she's sneaking into a violin store, falling into love with this violin and starts playing. And then we see the actual transition. She dreams of herself 20 years later. And I'm going to play the first 1.5 minutes of the video. Watch the shallow depth of field, watch the colors, watch everything, and I tell you later on what camera it was shot on. Okay, so let's start the video.
I care about things I'm not aware. How should I know? See what I like.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed this little video. I have all the videos on my Vimeo channel, so you can check it out on Vimeo under my name, Alex Klim. So you can watch the videos. And now comes the question. I knew it. Which camera are you using in this shot? Thanks, Julie, for the beautiful video. This was shot also on a Canon 7D. Was shot in 2011. For this shot here, I'm using a Canon 7D with a 85mm Canon lens, aperture 1.4, and the aperture thing, and this is the shallow depth of field thing. If you have, for example, this is a 50mm lens. Let me see if I can show you that, if you can see that. Every camera has here, there's markings, right? So it tells you 1 to 1.4, for example. And that's the aperture value. The lower the value, the normally more expensive the lens is, but the shallower the depth of field. If you look at this still image from the video here, for example, you see the background and you see how blurred out it is. So the focus is between her nose and her ears. Everything is in focus there, and everything from the background on is completely blurred. And you see the bokeh effects I mentioned. This nice little bokeh lights here, and this is exactly the one I achieved. No, this video was not shot on a chroma key. There's a question coming in. I know it does in some scenes. It looks like it's a chroma key. Let me get rid of the. Okay. But it was completely not chroma keyed. It's completely originally shot in the Villaggio in the canal at 3 AM in the morning. We wanted to have a completely empty mall, and it was shot there. And there's nobody in the mall, but in one scene you'll see a security guard hiding there in the background. He's coming in into the frame here on the left side. He's the only guy who made it in there. And yeah, you can figure him out. He's appearing over here. You can check it out. And this is the amazing thing with DSLR cameras again, that when you set up everything right from production wise, and this is my personal recommendation of saying, you can achieve 90% of common Hollywood results with a minimal affordable equipment if you do the settings right. Here, for example, this was shot on a 7D, which is today not even a state-of-the-art camera. It has no full-frame sensor. It's grainy sometimes, but it was shot on a 7D with some filters on top in post-production, which gives you this look and feel. Also, we see here the background, very blurry, everything. So this is exactly what we want to achieve when we use DSLR cameras, and you can achieve that. The lower the f-stop value, like 1.4 on your camera, the shallower the depth of field you can get. That means the more blurred out is the background. I have prepared a little slide to show you that actually. Starting here. Okay. Here, for example. And this is a really good comparison chart. If you look at the left image here, it's an aperture f1.4. That means on your camera settings, the aperture setting are all down to the way 1.4. What does this in particular mean? I'm focusing here on this glass, for example. That means that glass here is in focus. Everything in front of the glass and everything behind it, as we can see here, everything in front of the glass or everything objects behind it is out of focus. It's blurry. So with a shallow depth of field, only what I want to have in between here is in focus, and everything else is blurred out. If you change that aperture value on your camera to f16, for example, you'll see it in the picture on the right. This is more or less like my iPhone picture would look like. Everything's in focus. First class, second, third, and fourth class, everything's in focus, which is a nice shot. Nothing wrong about that shot, just not what I want to achieve as a filmmaker. So left picture, f1.4, f16. There's certain rules how exposure works. we have aperture, we have ISO, we have shutter speed. And it's always a matter of buying and selling lights. If I get rid of my lights with f16 because I have too much sunlight, then or I want to achieve it in too much sunlight, I need to work with ND filters, for example, which is this little tools here. It's called an ND filter, or sunglasses for your camera, for example. So if you want to go for a shallow depth of field, open up the aperture 1.4, too much light comes into the camera, use the filters, and even in daylight light, you can achieve a very shallow depth of field. There is a question coming in from Sunray. Alex, do you use manual or autofocus when shooting? I always shoot in manual. There's some exceptions, but you always use manual. You always use manual focus. And here's why, because there's the button here, autofocus and manual. If I'm shooting video and it's a film, it's a stage scene, I know exactly if the actor, sorry for that, I know exactly that the actor is walking from mark mark A to mark B. So I know that. So I know I can pull my focus from mark A to mark B. And I do all the focus pulling. If I'm a single shooter with my DSLR, I do it manually. Yes, you do have, answering the questions now, you do have to refocus manually. So if the object moves, you're always on the spot. So what you normally do is you position yourself like that, okay? You get your camera, you look into the viewfinder, and then you have always your hand on the focus ring. And this, of course, is the tricky part. You can learn that. This is the good part. It's a tricky part, but it's a good part. You can learn that. You won't learn it from one day to another. But if you force yourself and do and say, okay, I'm shooting everything manual, you will get it into the feelings. Okay, you will know if somebody comes, twist it into this direction, twist it into the other direction. So you can learn it. And if you do what you do, and you love what you do, and you do it on a daily basis, you'll get better. Even if you don't like it, you'll get better. If you love it, you'll get one of the best. So keep on doing it with the manual focus. There's certain exceptions, as mentioned. If the camera is mounted on a gimbal, for example, you don't have the ability to change the focus. So then there's certain cameras now, Canon 70D, for example, they have autofocus dual system included, which works really nice. You put it on the center, and everything in the center is in focus. It works maybe 80% of the cases, but in some cases it might or might not work. Azem, what camera is better, the 5D Mark III or the 7D? That depends on what you want to use the camera. These two models are completely different price categories. The 5D Mark III is the most expensive Canon 5D model on the market for HDSLR filmmaking. It's like $4,000 with lens at the moment. 7D you can get for a third of the price. Big difference between 5D and 7D is the sensor size. And I don't know if many of you are aware of that, but for example, we have a little chart here which represents the sensor sizes. The Canon 5D is a full frame sensor HDSLR. The Canon 7 is an APS-C crop sensor. Long story short, what does that mean? If your sensor in your camera has a certain size, then for the 7D, it's this size. Okay, that's the size of your sensor in your camera. This is your 7D size. What does this mean? That means the light sensitivity is given by the size of the sensor. It's given by the megapixels of the camera. There's certain calculations for that. The APS-C MOS sensor is a really nice, good sensor, and gives you, for HDSLR camera, like we saw in the previous video, gives you a really good overview. But film cameras, and when we try to achieve the Hollywood results, we always try to compare ourselves with Hollywood cameras. So Hollywood cameras, they do have a different sensor size. It's more or less super 35mm, which is in size a little different from the APS-C MOS. But you want to achieve that. So what is the difference? When I have a bigger sensor, like the 5D now, we're coming to the 5D. The 5D sensor is exactly that sensor size. You can see it's a lot of difference, and there's actually a crop factor of 1.5. So it's 1.5 times huger than a 7D. Huger sensor gives you shallower depth of field. That means same lens, 50 millimeter 1.4 lens on a 7D will have a wider depth of field, and the same lens on a 5D will have a shallower depth of field. In simple words, the background is more blurred out on a 5D Mark III and on a 7D. Also, in the sense of light sensitivity, if you shoot in low light conditions, or more light or less light, etc., what will happen is that a camera with a huger sensor will have the better results, less film grain, less noise, etc. So 7D is a beautiful camera. I still own my 7D. I bought it 5 years ago. I love it as a backup camera. 5D Mark III is, of course, the more professional choice, but the 7D does the job. So, yes, and you do need good eyesight when someone is running at 1.4. You hardly might achieve to keep him in focus. Okay, let's have a look at the survey, guys. Have you filled out the surveys? I still missing your survey things. 5 people from 13, 6, 7. Give me your votes, guys. Come on. Yes, 7 people. 5 more. I want to have some representative thing. No Canon guys there? Where's the guys? Ah, there's one 7D guy now. So where's the other guys? Everybody owns a 5D or 6D? Okay, come give me your final votes, guys, so we can end this little poll, this summary. Okay. Leaving it running for 60 seconds. Give me your votes on that summary, guys. I want to have a nice overview. If you don't have a camera, it's fine. Then just tell me on what camera from these you shot or you had in your hand the last year. Maybe you had the chance to check it out and try it out if you don't own your own camera. If you have both Canon and Sony, then you're a really lucky guy. 550D is also a very nice camera here. Okay, that's cool. Thanks for your feedback. I'm just ending the voting here and showing the details of our little vote here. So there's some of you owning a 7D. We have some Nikon guys. We have some Sony, and there's a lot of other. I assume the other will be the Canon 550D, 4550D, maybe Rebel, some stuff like that. So it's other Canon mostly, I assume. But it's okay that we see now how you guys have your cameras, and this is all good. Let me, before we completely run out of time, very quickly show you something very interesting in the sense of equipment or gear. If you shoot on a DSLR camera, you will need certain equipment to help you make the shoot very pleasurable for you. I'll go very briefly through it. For example, we have the slides here with my gear. What I like to shoot on, it's 5D Mark II, it's 5D Mark III, it's 7D, even 60D or 70D. You have to keep in your mind that the 5D and 60 are full frame sensor cameras, and the 7D and 550D, 60D, 70D, they are cropped, APS-C cropped sensors. So it's a smaller sensor, it's a little different in the shallow depth of field. Plus, there's a big thing. If I use a 50 millimeter lens on a 5D or 60, it's actually 50 millimeter lens. If I use this 50 millimeter lens on a 7D, there's this crop factor of 1.6, which you have to multiply your focal length. That means 50 millimeter by 1.6 gets around 80 millimeter. So on a 7D, this 50 millimeter lens is more zoomed in. It's acting like an 80 millimeter lens. You always have to consider that when you use lenses for your camera. Personally, I'm a Canon guy. Why? Because Canon started the video revolution. Nothing wrong about Nikon, nothing wrong about the other cameras, but I started with Canon. I have my gear, my stock on Canon. So you know how it works. You build you buy your body, you build your equipment, your lenses, and then you're stuck with your camera. I used Canon now for the past 5 last years for all the filmmaking stuff. I want to show you quickly some additional equipment. You have some sound recording devices you can plug into your camera. It's a shotgun microphone. You have some more ambient devices, which picks up more kidney function like sound, everything. You can mount it on top of your camera very easily. Just take the camera, mount it here, plug it in. Looks nice, looks fancy. Also, of course, the DSLR cameras, you have the viewfinder here, which is wonderful, nice and beautiful, but, and there's always a but, if you gonna see what's in there in this light condition, everything's good, you'll see it. If you go outside, it's really hard to see the screen, and because it's a digital single lens reflex camera, you cannot use the viewfinder here. So you have to watch for the screen, but if it's outside, the sun is bright and shines on it, I'm not gonna see it anymore. So how can I help myself with that? There's certain gadgets called viewfinder. So basically how this thing is working, there's a structure you can mount on your camera, and then you just clip it on here. And then what you do is you have the setup here with the camera, and you can put it here to your eye, look through it, and see everything very precisely what's going on the monitor. Also, we have external microphones, and this is now the tricky part. Professional microphones, they have an XLR plug, and DSLR cameras, they just don't. So if you want to record professional audio, if you do a TV commercial, and you're shooting on a DSLR, what you're going to use is an external sound recorder, like a Tascam, for example, or a Zoom H4. So devices, they have professional XLR input jacks, and then you just have to sync the whole audio and video in post-production. Yes, there's another question in the chat coming up. Yeah, I was coming to that. You see it there in the background. That's my lovely Sony A7S camera. It's actually technically not a DSLR camera anymore because it's a mirrorless camera. It's just a compact, small, little, nice, fancy camera. And yeah, I'm switching now myself personally. I'm still using Canon for some kind of shots, but for TV commercials, for the more fancy stuffs, I'm switching to Sony A7S and Sony FS7 because simply these cameras, they just are bringing stunning video quality, stunning data rate, and stunning image and picture quality to the scene now. And in my personal opinion, they are higher level now than Canon cameras. Canon has still the issue that the video and photography department, they are working like besides each other. So with the upcoming 5D Mark II revolution, all the filmmakers went to these little cameras, and the video department got lack of interest, of course, because now why shall I invest $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 when $4,000 or $5,000 can do it? So Canon is lacking a little behind in the development of the new cameras, and Sony, in my opinion, in the last 1 or 2 years with the Sony A7S, A7R, R2, etc., they have really made it up for that, and I like to shoot on the cameras. But I'm still using all of this stuff. Depends always on the shoot. If you shoot in the desert and you need a shot in a car with a lot of sand, I'll better use my Canon than my Sony, for example. So for the equipment, you need a lot of batteries, by the way, for the DSLR cameras. So when I go out on a day shoot, for example, and I'm having my 5D or my Sony with me, these little batteries, they last around 1.5 hours. So if you are on a 10-hour shooting day, you might need a lot of batteries. So 7, 8, 9, 10 shall do it. Good, that was for the equipment. And we'll have, so we close this survey now. So we have another little poll. I think we can do that now. And I want to start the other one very quickly. Just out of interest, because we're talking about how the DSLR cameras changed the way of filmmaking, and to conclude that, I'd like you to vote on the second voting. It's just a difference from ever what field you're coming from. There's so many interesting cameras entering the market now, and HDSLR cameras have affected us, have taken a big part. The most affection was, and this is really to summarize this whole thing, that affordable camera equipment is now available to almost everybody, and people can achieve really, really good results, 90% of Hollywood results, if you do everything right in production, which is very hard, of course. But this has changed the filmmaking scene a lot. Many people, students, they own a camera, they can go out, and if they are doing everything right, they in theory are capable of really, really making it up to the big guys. Of course, there's more than that, just buying a camera and going out there and say, hey, cool, I'm now a pro filmmaker. Hard work, a lot of learning, lifelong learning, it's building up a good team, it's being with the good people, gathering creative people around you, working together, learning from each other. And we do have the internet. We are having this webinar now via Intube Center. It's online, and you can participate. You're sitting in all different places at the moment, Doha, Qatar, etc. And we all can participate from each other. And this is the good thing about the internet and the revolution. There's so many tutorials online these days, and if you're interested, the Dr. Google knows everything. The tutorials are there, comparisons. There's so many guys for free available. They do tutorials, they teach you how to use the cameras, and really I urge you to use that and to subscribe to filmmaking newsletters and magazines, etc., and get yourself into this field if you're interested. And just to get an idea what you can do with your photo camera. I hope you really enjoyed today's session. We do have a couple of minutes left, so if you have any questions in the chat, please feel free to drop me a line. I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to help you out. I'm also, what I have prepared is a last video. I'm just going to play it. It's 30 seconds. It's a little video we shot for Aqua Park this year. It was for the opening, and it was entirely shot on a Canon 6D plus on a GoPro 3 for the aerial shots. It's only 30 seconds. I'm going to play it right now.
Qatar's first water theme park is ready to give you the biggest splash of the summer. Create the perfect wave of fun for all friends and family members. With exhilarating water attractions, multi-lane water slides to wave pools, and massive adventure play areas. Join us this season for a relaxing and entertaining aquatic experience, only at Aqua Park Qatar.
And what you can see in these videos is completely shot on a DSLR camera. So the whole setup is on a Canon 6D. It was mounted on a FreeFly device. It's called the FreeFly M5 to give this Steadicam impression of shots. And picture quality wise, it's a YouTube link now, so please forgive the quality, but it's shot in full HD. It's all the quality you need, so everything's fine. And there's one more little video, which was also shot on a DSLR camera, and this is the most exciting stuff. This little gimbal I just mentioned. You can mount small cameras on it, and you have a Steadicam look and feel, which one could only achieve with a big budget a couple of years ago. And you can achieve such scenes like that, moving scenes.
Here I am. Come fly with me, let's fly away. If you can use some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come on, fly with me, let's fly away. Come fly with me, let's float down to Peru.
Super exciting to see that now everybody's votes are coming to reality, and now we're acknowledging all of the cool people and all of the cool restaurants.
Okay. So that was shot on a on a Canon 6D on a FreeFly gimbal, and this would not be possible without a Steadicam operator a couple of years ago. The FreeFly device, you can Google that. It's a FreeFly Systems M5. It's also a device. It's not inexpensive, but it's less than $3,000–4,000. And in professional filmmaking with DSLRs, it has made a new level up to filmmaking. So it's really what we use these days, and you have the mobility, you can handle it alone, you can set it up, you don't need an assistant for that, and you save a lot of crew, of course. So you go there, 1-2 people, and you replace a former crew of 6-7 people, and you can achieve even better results if you use this stuff. So how's our last poll going for today? So the cameras, we have someone shot on Blackmagic. Wonderful. I like the Blackmagic pocket and production cameras. Very nice style. Little battery issues. That's the only thing. And the most of you have shot on HDSLR cameras. Okay. There's another question coming in. If I'm going to have a workshop on how to use the Sony FS700, there's no workshop plan yet for that, but I could recommend you to get in touch with Entube Center, and I figure they will sort you out. Maybe they have a solution for you. So, going through the last pages, there's one more interesting slide I wanted to share with you in the sense of screen size. Many of us grew up with the old 4:3 television sets. That was 133:1, and now we all know we're shooting in 16:9. 16:9 is actually a ratio of 1.77:1, and the American cinema size is here. It's 1.8:1, so it's just a wider format. And the really wide extended cinema format is 235:1. And you can achieve that little formats. You always record on 16:9 with your cameras, but then you can put the black bars in there. For example, if you check the videos we've seen already, you see the black bars on the top and the bottom. So, for example, this ratio is 235:1. That's an extended cinema ratio. And it also gives you the impression and the look of a more Hollywood-like filmish look and feel. So here's to that from my side. I hope you guys enjoyed today's live webinar, and I hope to see you back on future webinars. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me. Feel free to contact me. You can contact via Entube Center, or you can go directly to my Facebook page or YouTube channels, etc. And I'm happy to help. I'll read my emails. I'll try to answer. Give me just a couple of time, but everything's cool. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed today's session. And let's go out there, guys. Do something. Use your cameras and shoot. Thank you.